Yes, now you're all good. Can you hear me?
I can.
Yeah, so good evening, Mara, and thank you very much for accepting my invitation to participate in the workshop. And Mara Reifman, she's a NAATI certified translator here in Australia. She lives in Melbourne, and she's going to talk to us tonight about everything that you need to know about translation, and a very important step in the validation process. So good evening, Mara, and welcome.
Thank you very much, Jeff. So hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you for the invitation, Jeff. So good evening to those who are in Australia. Good morning or good afternoon to whoever's overseas. My name is, yes, said, is Mara Reifman. You can call me Mara. And I am a NAATI certified professional translator. NAATI stands for National Accreditation Authority for Translators and Interpreters. So it's an accreditation body similar to engineers, what Engineers Australia is to engineers. Okay? All right. So first I'm going to talk about the documents that you need to translate. And the reason why you need to translate documents is because for you to have your qualification certified, they need to validate it. They need to see your documents. And if they are not in English, then you need to have them translated. In some countries, you have what is called a simple translation and a certified translation. In Australia, we don't have that. In Australia, either you do your own translation, but for documents, you need to have them done by a professional translator, and in many cases, a NAATI certified translator. Okay, and how do you find a translator? Well, word of mouth helps a lot. So people who have had their translations done, so you have recommendations from friends, and expat communities have a very strong social media. So that's a very good way to find. There will be several very experienced and qualified translators in your language. You can also go to the NAATI website.
There's a database or something, no, Mara, there?
Yes. Okay. So naati.com.au and NAATI with double A. Yep. And you can find a translator in your language. Now, it doesn't matter. Jason said, I am based in Melbourne, but my clients are all over Australia, and some of them are overseas. Yeah. So it doesn't matter.
So you don't need to send like a physical document. You can PDF and send it.
Yes. So what I usually do is that I'll send the PDF, and I also send the PDF attached to the original document. So it's ready for you to send to Engineers Australia.
Yeah.
It's ready because, and so you don't really need to have them. Many times people do want to have the hard copies. So it's just a question of posting it.
All right. Okay?
So, and what documents do people need to translate? Well, you will receive a list by Engineers Australia, and but there's some documents, if you're just starting your process, there's some documents which are very important that you have translated, such as your birth certificate, okay? In some countries, for mayors, you need to have a military dispensation certificate.
Okay.
Which is also good to have translated. Some countries also have a national ID.
Yes.
So these documents you would have, and also, sorry, I forgot another one. It's professional registration cards.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like in Brazil, engineers usually we have the CREA.
Yes.
Identity card, the professional identity. So
if you're just starting, it would be a good idea for you to have these documents translated to begin with, and then you also, wait sometimes you need to collect documents from different companies you worked for, or so you can start with that, especially because translation, it's not very cheap. So you can do it in stages. So you're not overwhelmed. Okay.
Yes, because there will be, especially from companies, with Engineers Australia, they will need some reference letters as a supporting documentation for their work experience and so on. Yeah.
And also, if I'm not mistaken, pay slips to show experience overseas.
Yes, there is. Yeah, some people they apply to get their work experience validated as well, and then there's going to be pay slips and tax returns and social security statements and those sort of things.
So you need 2 documents per year. So Anyway, as we're saying, you also need to have proof of previous experience. Mm-hmm. And I suggest you discuss with your translator how to approach the translation of these documents. Okay?
I see.
Something very important is money. How much does a translation cost? Well,
yeah, that's a very common question.
I know. So it's almost impossible to say, how much is this going to cost? Well, first of all, you need to send the documents to the translator. So people just say, how much is this? Well, what you think is A, for a translator, it could be A plus B, or it could be C, something different. So do your best, because you're doing it for you. So rather than taking just a quick photo, just make sure you properly scan the document and have it in PDF. Send it to the translator, and then let them examine. So every single person's requirements are unique. So there's no fixed charge, for your documents is going to be, because you're an engineer. Just to give you an example, right? A driver's license, a birth certificate, or other basic standard documents, as we call them, translated by an experienced translator, can cost between $40 to $45 each.
All right.
Complex documents are more difficult to estimate. So it depends on how long they are, if they're legible, because how long is it going to take for me to do that translation? Is it very technical language, or are there lots of abbreviations or a lot of tables?
I see.
So the difficulty of the work, the time it will take, the research needed will determine how much a translation will cost.
So it's not quite per page.
No, it's not.
Yeah.
I have lots of colleagues overseas, and whenever I talk to them, I say, "Oh my God, everybody complains that clients say, how much is it per page?" Well, it depends. If I ask you,
the page is complex.
Exactly. I need you to build a bridge for me. How much is it?
Yeah, depends. One lane, 2 lanes, 1 span, 2 spans.
Exactly. What's the soil is like under the bridge? How high you want it?
Concrete, timber, steel.
Exactly. So so the same question applies to how much is one page? Anyway, I would say that to have all your documents translation for professional registration, if you're starting from the beginning, it could cost anything from, $800 to $1,000. So bear in mind that some universities sometimes already send their transcripts in English, which helps. And some of them can have very, very long course descriptions and program outlines that can cost even more.
Yeah.
Okay. Also, the translator sometime can give you an estimate and say, "Look, I think this is what it's going to be. It's not going to be more than an X," or give you both. It really depends on how much you have and how much time. In order to know which documents to translate, because let me go back. Some people get really anxious And they think that the more documents they send, right, the better it's going to be.
Better chances they will have.
Exactly. The better chance they have of being, having a response sooner. However, they need to remember that every document they send in their language, if it's not written in English, right, they will have to have that document translated, because the person who received it cannot read your mother tongue. Therefore, you may have to spend money to translate a document that may not be necessary.
Most necessary, yeah.
So, so I would suggest, first of all, ask your question: what is my objective having this document translated?
Mm-hmm.
And discuss that with the translator. So that is, that's important. Also remember thinking of a timeline, a very realistic timeline. Good translators are busy.
I can imagine so.
And often they work for a number of different clients. So if you talk to a translator and you say, oh, can you do this for me, for Monday, Tuesday, and it's a very big piece of work and they can do it, and then you say, well, you could ask yourself, haven't they got anything, other work?
Yes.
You can't simply stop to do the work without letting other clients down.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not what you want to do.
No.
Okay? So work out your deadline, be honest with the translator, give them lots of time. And as I said, if you have those basic documents you haven't translated yet, start with that, right? The more time you allow for your work, the better chance you have of securing a competent translator and very good quality of work. So it's also very important to build a relationship with your translator. Then, the translator will sometimes meet impossible deadlines, because this is an old client, and I've done, lots of work for them, and they need something, and they need it, for tomorrow. I'll do my best. Okay. And they will give you advice of what to include, what not to include. So communication is very important. How to communicate? Email. Email is the best.
Yep.
I am very open. In fact, there's a little slide with my telephone number. I'm very happy to talk to people during business hours. Mm-hmm. So very happy for people to call me. But it's very hard when somebody sends you a document on WhatsApp, because I work on email. Yeah. So that's just like the first, touching days or Messenger, but then all documents, on email. And email can be sent at any time during the night, no problem. So I would say, if you're confident in the experience of your translator, listen to the advice. If you'd like some advice, I work with a group of translators. Sometimes I know people, who work with other languages, and I'm just happy to help. It can save you lots of time if you liaise with your translator and they, give you some advice which you follow to which parts of the document you can delete or perhaps summarize, and that will save you a lot of money. Okay? Be available to answer questions from your translator. Keep copies of your translations, because you need them in the future. Put them on a separate folder. Check the original document, not because somebody has sent you something from a university or from your previous employer, that it's accurate. They may forget to sign. They may have a wrong date. And once a translator has done that translation, it's not, therefore, you don't want to have to pay for it again. Spellings of your name. Also check for accuracy of the translation. Translators are normal people. We make mistakes too. And just
so when I for example, I send you my bachelor degree, certificate to be translated. I scan it. And very important, guys, when you scan it, Engineers Australia ask you to scan in high resolution, minimum of 300 dpi's in color. So don't forget about that. So I do that. I scan and send it to you, and then you translate, you send it back. Do I get also a hard copy, or I get just a PDF with your translation?
You choose, right?
All right.
It's your choice. I sometimes, as much as I insist, even other clients, and they're doing a translation of a birth certificate, for example, and I say, it's important for you to, nah, I don't need it. I think it's younger people think, yeah, but it's yes, I can post it to you, no problem. You just ask the translator. Okay. Something else that's important for you to ask your translator is for a receipt of what you've paid, because that is tax deductible because you're using it for your profession, for work.
Yes, that's true.
Ask for that, and then you can, So just remember, remind your translator, say, could you please send me an invoice or a receipt? Okay.
Good. I'll check if there is any question there, Mara. I took the liberty and I sent your email in the comments in YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So people, if people in the audience, if they have any questions or if they have any queries, they can send you an email.
Yeah, I'm very happy to help.
Yeah, it doesn't look like there is any questions there. I think you explained very, very well. So if there's no other questions, I would like to thank you, Mara, for your time. And I'm pretty sure that the audience got a lot of value from your information. And we all need translation at some stage here in Australia, or people that are in their countries wanting to come to Australia.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you very much. And you guys can find Mara in Instagram. Her profile is at Mara Reifman. So just her name and surname is her profile in Instagram. You can find her there. And also in Facebook, Mara Reifman. It's your profile in Facebook. So you can find her there and send her questions and comments.
Or even under MR translations, I think. Are you sharing the PDF that I sent you?
I will. I can. If you are okay for me to send, I'll send an email to the participants, so they have a copy of. Mara was very kind, and she prepared a PDF with few dot points, and I will send that as an email to everybody in my list, so they can benefit with that information there.
Thank you very much, Jason.
That's okay. Thank you very much, and the rest of the audience, stay tuned, because we'll talk about the biggest fears in the validation process. All right. Yeah. Thank you. All right. So, very good to have Mara here. Very useful information. A lot of things that I didn't know, and we always learn new things. Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so the next is going to be some of the biggest fears when you're starting your validation process. So, and where did I get the idea of these biggest fears? Well, first of all, because a lot of people, they talk to me, they ask me questions. I speak with a lot of people that they're starting their validation process, and then I did a little bit of compilation of what are the fears that people usually face when they are starting their validation process. So first one, I don't know how many I put, but I'll start with the first one. And it's not in order of priority or order of importance. I just numbered, so yeah, it's a little bit easier. But the first fear is that people have is not to be very good in English. And this is a very common fear that many engineers have, especially if you are obviously overseas engineers, because English is not our mother language in majority of cases. Yeah, some people, they come from countries where English is also official language, but Engineers Australia does not accept some of the countries. Those countries, they still gotta do IELTS test or PT or talk good in English. What you need to understand is that the validation process will require you a proficient English level. We're not talking about a native or fluent level. We're talking about a proficient level. What is proficient? Well, according to Engineers Australia, they judge proficient when you have 6 in the score of each of the 4 bands in IELTS, for example, listening, speaking, writing, and reading. So this is what they consider to be proficient. So, and if you are planning well your validation process, you're probably going to take between 3, 4, 5, 6 months until you decided to finish your validation work and apply with Engineers Australia. So let's say that you're going to start today your validation process. And starting means gathering the documents, thinking about your experiences, and then start writing your reports. And then you do a little bit of planning. You're still studying, you're still working, so you can't really put a lot of time, but you're going to put few hours a week until you finish everything. So let's say that 6 months will be a reasonable time for you to start and finish your application with Engineers Australia. That's a very good period, because in this time, in these 6 months, if you're really committed to the process, what can you do? You can start reading technical articles. You can start reading technical specifications. You can do some research on technical papers to learn the technical terminologies in English. This is very important, because every time that you're going to write something in your reports, it's an engineering report. So you will need to have technical terminologies. And also in this period, you will be writing the draft reports for your CDR, your competency demonstration report. You also perhaps will be attending events in English. Even my weekly live sessions like this one can help. Obviously, I'm not a native English speaker, but because I speak in English here, any English is better than no English. So if you want to improve your English, perhaps even my English here can help you to train your listening, etc., etc. But the important thing is that in this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months, for example, if you do this, if you do all this reading, if you do all this researching, if you attend English networking events, if you attend my live sessions, if you listen to podcasts in English, naturally you will be improving and gaining confidence in your English level. In the beginning, you may be a little bit unsure, uncertain about your English level, may not be very confident, but you'll see that after 3 or 4 months, you will start getting more confident. And you don't need to have fear to make mistakes. We are all adults, and at this stage, we also learn a lot with our mistakes. So the people that we are talking to, they know that we are not English speakers. And if we say a word that's that's wrong, or perhaps the pronunciation is not quite correct, they will politely correct you. Many times when I say a word or pronounce a word that's not quite correct, the other person politely, in the phrase or in the response, repeats that word with the right pronunciation. And I realized then that I said something not quite correct. And obviously, I try to learn the right pronunciation. And this is how the learning process will start. And it's important that you read. Reading technical articles is very important. So it means that after 6 months, your English level will probably naturally going to improve quite substantially. But obviously, if your English is very basic, for example, if you are following my live sessions, if you are attending the workshop, and if you can understand quite well what I'm talking about, I'd say that your English is quite good, and you just need a little bit of how can I say, refinement in your English, so you can go well with the test, and obviously trying to learn the tricks of each test. But if your English is very basic, you're struggling to understand what I'm talking about, the bad news is that you will need to dedicate some time to study and to get professional help to improve your English level. So that is the first fear. The second one is that people usually have. They say to me, Gerson, I don't have enough work experience. So, and because I don't have enough work experience, I think I cannot do my validation process. So this is very common, especially for engineers that they are in the very beginning of the process. They haven't read the migration skills assessment booklet. So they think, and sometimes they don't even go further because they think that they don't have experience, and therefore they won't be able to validate the qualification. The good news is that to validate your engineering qualification, you don't need even to have work experience. Engineers Australia does not require experience, and subsequently doesn't require, obviously, Australian experience, academic or work. So you can use just your academic engineering experiences, as long as obviously those experiences, they match the occupation definition of the ANZ SEO, the Australian and New Zealand Standard Classification of Occupations. So not having work experience, it's not an issue. You can use your academic experience, your TCC, your final assignment, and assignment of subjects that you used in your graduation. The other common fear is about not having access to academic work. So this is somehow linked to the previous one. Let's say that you don't have work experience, and then you decided to do academic work. But you are here in Australia, you don't have access to your reports for some whatever reason, you misplaced and you lost all your academic work. But you do remember the things that you did because, for example, you just graduated, so you remember what you did. So what can you do in this case? Well, first of all, remember if you did, for example, your assignments in a group. At university, it's very common that we do in a group. If you did in a group, and then perhaps you contact some of your colleagues or friends, and then if they still have their work, perhaps you can ask them to send a copy to you because your name is going to be there as well. So this is not plagiarism. It's something that you did, but you don't have the file. And then you ask the copy, they send to you, your name is in the report, something that you did, and you can then perhaps use that report as part of your experience. Another way, let's say that you did a work by yourself, but you don't have the report. What can you do? But you remember everything. So another thing that you could do, you could contact the course coordinator at the university and then talk to him or her saying, I'm recognizing my qualification here in Australia and I'm writing this report about this subject. I don't have the report anymore. So could you please send me a reference letter stating the things that I did at work in that academic work. So perhaps you draft a letter, perhaps you send a draft of your career episodes, and then the course coordinator will read that, and perhaps they'll say, yes, the work that you did in your career episode reflects what you've done in your subject, and they give you a reference letter with that. So I know that it can be done because some of my students, they did that and they got a letter from the university, and Engineers Australia accepted that letter. All right. Another big fear that many engineers they have, and this is almost like a showstopper. A showstopper, it's an expression here in Australia or in English that it's something that stop the work, stop everything. You cannot progress anymore. Some people they think that the experience that they don't know what experience to use in the career episode. You will see in video number 3 of the workshop that I'm going to talk about the career episodes. And in video number 1 tomorrow, you will see that if you're following the CDR pathway, the competency demonstration report, you need to write 3 career episodes. But to write the career episodes, you need to have experience. You need to choose examples. You need to choose experiences to base your career episode. If you don't have experience, then obviously you cannot write your career episodes. If you cannot write your career episodes, you cannot validate your qualification. So this fear is really prevalent and is legit. A lot of people, they have lots of experiences, but the experiences are not matching the ANZ SEO occupation definition. And this is a problem, because if your experience does not match the definition of your occupation according to ANZ SEO occupation definition, Engineers Australia is probably not going to accept your experience as part of that career episode. And what happens then? You submit your application, Engineers Australia will give you a feedback, and they might say, please rewrite your career episode or career episodes using an experience that reflects the competencies of, let's say, a civil engineer or a mechanical engineer, whatever engineer you applied, according to the competencies in the MSA booklet and the ANZ SEO occupation definition. And they also keep saying, also adjust your summary statement to reflect the new career episode. So that can happen. And if that happens, obviously, you have another 30 days so you can rewrite your career episodes and resend your documents to Engineers Australia. So choosing the right experiences is very, very important. It's not an easy task. And the good start is for you to read very carefully the ANZ SEO occupation definition of the occupation that you're going to be applying for. I'm going to share with you how I'm going to give away 15 minutes of free consulting now. And I also decided that I'm going to do a live session on Tuesday. I wasn't planning to do this one, but today I decided that I'm going to do an Instagram live session just on Instagram on Tuesday, 8 p.m. I think I'll do 8 p.m. And this live session is going to be pretty much questions and answers. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to do an Instagram post now. And tomorrow I'm releasing video number 1. And in my post, there will be a question. So where is that? I will find it here. Just need to find where it is. And if you like the post and answer the question that I'm asking during the live session on Tuesday, I will, where's that? Not this one. I found it. So I'll put right in the comments the right answer. So like the post and write in the comments the right answer. Okay, you will see, I'm just going to show you guys. I just posted in my profile. I think that's I think you can see there. My background is not allowing that to happen. Oh yeah, here. So from video number 1, that's the post, you can check in there. It says, from video number 1, what pathway do you need to follow if your country is not a signatory of any accord? So if you watch the video tomorrow, you will easily answer this question. So what I'm going to do then on Tuesday during the live session is that I'm going to see who liked the post and answer correctly the question, and then I'm going to do a draw, a sorteio from those ones that like the post and answer correctly the question after watching obviously video number 1. And then on Tuesday during the live session I will do the draw, and the person needs to be live with me on Tuesday, and I'll do the draw, and straight away I'm going to ask, are you here? If you are here with me on Tuesday, we will share the screen, and the person will get 15 minutes on the spot to have a chat with me, discussing his or her situation or asking a particular question. Okay, so go to my last Instagram post about video number 1, and then tomorrow morning 9 a.m. Brisbane time, I'm going to send the link to the video. So watch the video there and answer the question in Instagram. And then on Tuesday, I will be choosing somebody, not choosing, but drawing somebody to get 15 minutes of free consulting. Okay? And I'm going to do this once I release video number 2 as well. There will be another question about video number 2, and then I will be giving 15 minutes of free consulting during the live session on Thursday on Instagram. The next fear that a lot of engineers they have is about not being a good report writer. So I'm very curious, and I would like you guys to write in the comments a very just yes or no. Are you a good report writer? So if you are, obviously put yes. If you're not, put no, and I will participate as well, and I will, and you will know if I am a good report writer or not. So I am putting my answer there. So what about you? Are you a good report writer? And remember, guys, participation is very important. If you participate, it means that you are focused in the process and you have better chances to be successful. So we've got some comments coming already. In Instagram, Lucas said, no. Ha ha ha. Yeah, so you like me, Lucas. Johnny, he says, yes, I reckon. Oh, you're lucky, Johnny, because if you're a good report writer, that's already an advantage, because if you are going to validate your engineering qualification, you have many reports to write, and if you're a good report writer, then you're lucky. You are already one step ahead. What about the others? So we've got few people in the live session. So are you guys, Luis in YouTube is saying yes and no. So, more or less. Yes. So I'm gathering that probably more no than yes, perhaps. But it's not, there's nothing wrong with being not a good report writer. Some people, they have more natural skill to organize the thoughts. Some people have perhaps they like reading, and because they like reading, they read a lot since beginning, since they were a child, and now they have probably it's easier for them to write reports. Unfortunately, I didn't like to read. Even today, I don't read. I'm trying to read a little bit more. So perhaps that's why I struggle to write reports. Obviously, in the job that I do, I have to write lots of reports, and my reports are really good. But it doesn't mean that I am a good report writer. I had to learn how to write a good report. I have to discipline myself. I have to organize myself to write a good report, because I'm not a good report writer. The people that are good report writers, probably they don't need to organize too much themselves. Probably they don't need to do a lot of preparation. Probably they don't need to do checklists and etc. because they're just good report writers. But in my case, I'm not a good report writer, so I had to learn how to write good reports. And my reports are pretty good today, but it doesn't mean that I am a good report writer. I had to learn how to do that. And the good news is that, yes, you can learn how to write a good report. There are some techniques, there are some tools, there are some methodologies that I use and I teach in my mentoring program that make you perhaps write good reports. It's not going to make you a good report writer, but it's going to make you to write good reports. And it's important because the career episodes in the validation process, there's a range between 1,000 words and 2,500 words. I suggest strongly to you guys that you write close to the maximum of 2,500 words. The more you write, better you can address the competencies, especially if you are not a very good report writer. A very good report writer will probably going to be more objective, is going to be straight to the point, and perhaps addressing the competencies more directly. If you're not a good report writer, you may need more words to address the competencies. So, but even if you are a good report writer, I strongly encourage you to write close to the maximum of 2,500 words, so you can demonstrate several times the competencies. So there's no doubt that some competencies are not being addressed. Okay? But the idea to write good reports, one, is to read carefully the migration skills assessment booklet. This is very important and a step that many engineers, they don't do properly. They do the reading, but they read very superficially. You need to read very carefully with a lot of attention and many times. You need to read the booklet many times. And don't leave to the last minute. If you have to read, if you have to write reports, don't leave until the last minute, because you will be rushing, and every time that you rush, it's not going to be good. The result is not going to have good quality. Set yourself some time to think, to plan, to organize, and to review your work. This will help immensely the data and information gathering, and it will be a matter of then organizing this data and information, and then you can write your reports. So obviously I could be here for hours talking about how I write good reports, but we don't have that time. Understanding of competencies, that is another big fear. Some people, they read the booklet, they get the booklet, and then they reach the bits with the competencies and units of standards. And then they start reading P1.1, P1.2, P1.3, etc., etc., etc. And then they think, oh, I don't understand anything. I cannot understand what is written here. I don't know how I'm going to address these competencies. So I give up. Many people do that because the reading, I said this morning, the reading is not pleasant. It can be boring. But if you want to validate your qualification, you need to make that reading somehow interesting. So this fear is a little bit difficult to overcome, because competencies, at least when I was in Brazil, studying in Brazil, I didn't really learn how to address competencies. Because obviously I graduated as an engineer, I didn't graduate as a teacher, I didn't graduate as a trainer or a coach. So after I got my certificate for in training and assessment here in Australia, then I understood about competencies. I understood how to address competencies. So I can understand if you are having this fear, because it's something that's not very common. How can you overcome this difficulty? Well, first of all, again, read very carefully the booklet and the competencies. If there are words that you don't understand, please look up in the dictionary. Read technical articles to familiarize yourself with technical terminologies. It will help you to decipher some of the competencies and help you to write a better report. What else can you do to understand better competencies? Obviously, if you want to do a training and assessment course, you can. It may take between 6 months to 1 year for you to do the training. I did it because it was my job, so I did it. And I was also in Brazil. I was teaching at university, some post-graduation courses, so I had some experience. And I was also a technical consultant, so I was delivering some training there. So I had a little bit of background, but I didn't know exactly competencies, so I had to learn competencies. But unfortunately, there's no easy way. You need to study the booklet, you need to read technical articles, and you need to read really, really carefully the competencies. There's no easy way for you to understand it. In my mentoring program, I try to digest that a little bit better and give a little bit of a different way to explain competencies. But honestly, it's an area that it's really difficult. If you are having fears, it's not enough for you to give up, but it's a legit fear. So we can talk about, you can ring me, you can call me, we can talk about it. In my videos, I've got some videos in my YouTube channel where I give some examples of some of the competencies that you need to address. So if you go to my YouTube channels, just search about competencies and you will find some videos where I give some examples of some of the competencies. In my mentoring program, I've got 16 modules that I talk about competencies because we have 16 competencies and I recorded classes for each of those 16 competencies. It's almost 4 hours of duration where I talk about competencies. And I think the last fear that I'm going to talk tonight is about plagiarism. And I spoke this morning about plagiarism, but I'm not quite sure why many people are afraid of plagiarism. Because if you're doing the work yourself, if you're not asking somebody else to write on your behalf, or if you don't copy somebody else's report, or if you do not engage a CDR writer, then you don't need to fear because it's all your work. But obviously, if you ask somebody's career episodes, and that's very common. You know, you go to Facebook groups, people they ask, "Oh, can somebody share with me your career episode? I'm not going to copy. I just want as a reference, etc., etc." But you gotta remember that your brain will read that career episode, and inadvertently, you're probably going to be copying few things, and that could be dangerous because that career episode of somebody else's that was approved is already in Engineers Australia database. And if you ended up copying a paragraph or so, you may find yourself in a little bit of trouble. So again, the process is simple. 6 steps, and I'm going to explain the 6 steps in video 1 tomorrow. The process is not easy, unfortunately, because there's a lot of work to be done. But it's not impossible. You can do it, and you will do it. You just need to focus in what to do. You don't need to engage anybody. You don't need to copy anything. You don't need to download templates. You don't need to engage a CDR writer, because the risk of you being caught by Engineers Australia with plagiarism and being banned for 3 years, up to 3 years, the risk is so big, it's not worthwhile the risk. You can do it yourself, as many engineers they do by themselves. If you decide to join my mentoring program, I will teach you how to write everything by yourself, so you don't really run the risk of a plagiarism. Okay. I'll check. I think we've got some questions there. We'll answer some of the questions. So I've got Lucas. He asked in Instagram, a better score in IELTS could help in the approval. Not quite. Well, it can in a way. If you get a, let's say, 8 in IELTS, your chances to be approved is probably better, not because of the score, 8, but it's because if you got 8, it means that your English is more advanced, and probably then your writing skills are going to be better. And you will be able to address and produce evidences of your competencies much better than somebody that got a 6, for example, in all bands. So it's not quite the score that will help you, but it means that if you got a very high score, it means that your English is better, you can express yourself better, you can write better, and you can probably demonstrate better the competencies as well. There's another question there from Johnny. I think it's not a question, just a comment. He's saying, I've been doing reports for the last 2 years for uni. And my job, I think I have improved. Very good. And that's practice, you know. If Johnny's been doing reports for the last 2 years, it means that he's been practicing a lot. And there's a saying here in Australia, the more you practiced, luckier you get. It's not that you get luckier, of course. Because you practice more, you will be better. You will improve. So, and you're right, Johnny. If you've been doing reports for the last 2 years, your report writing skills will be much better than somebody that never wrote a report in the last 2 years. Will start writing from now. So the more you write, the more you practice. And again, writing reports, it's not just the writing. To be able to write a report, Johnny probably did a lot of research. Johnny did a lot of reading. Johnny did a lot of a summary of the reading that he did. And then writing is just the end result. So yes, there's a lot of logic behind. If you've been doing for 2 years, you've improved your writing skills. And Lucas is asking in Instagram, do I need a recommendation letter for each experience case? Yeah, that's a good question. Depends. If you decide to write, for example, if you have 2 experiences from the same company, let's say that you worked for a company 1, 2, 3, 4 years, and then you have enough experience in that company to write, let's say, 2 career episodes. Obviously, in your reference letter, you probably just need 1 reference letter from that company that covers the 2 experiences. So you can write 2 experiences in 2 career episodes and just have 1 letter because they are from the same employer or the same company. Okay. Check YouTube. Yeah, Luis is saying, he answered yes or no, more or less, if he is a good report writer, but then he's saying that from this point of view, I'm not good making reports. Yeah, well, who knows? Maybe you are. But a lot of people, especially engineers, we probably were not educated to write good reports. Rodrigo in Facebook, he says, no, I'm not a good report writer. So, and that's a very important. When you say that you're not a good report writer or you are a good report writer, it's important to have this self-awareness. Self-awareness is something that's very important for to have success in a lot of things. In the validation process, in job interviews, knowing what you are good at and knowing what you are not so good at, it's going to be important for your success. Because if you know what you're not good at, you can then seek for some help. This help can be reading, can be training, can be coaching, can be mentoring, can be whatever. And then the good points, then you can reinforce those points. All right. I think there is another question there in Instagram. Lucas is asking, could you talk more about this experience case? Not sure in what detail, Lucas, but if you're talking about the experience case, I'm assuming that the experience case is your engineering experience example that you will be using in your career episode. I'm going to talk about that in a lot of details in video number 3, when this coming Friday, when I talk about the career episodes. But in a nutshell, you need to think about engineering experiences that you had, either academic experience or work experience. Obviously, if you graduated and you don't have work experience, then obviously you will think about your academic engineering experience. But assuming that you've got both, you've got the academic experience and the work experience. What is a good experience? One is the one that matches the definition of ANZ SEO occupation definition. So that's critical. 2, needs to be complex. What's complex? Well, you know what's complex for your area. And why it needs to be complex? Because remember, you need to address 16 competencies. And the competencies, they vary from here to there and to there. So lots of them are technical, lots of them are not technical. And you need to address all of them, 16 competencies in each career episode. So if you're not choosing a complex experience, perhaps you don't have enough content in that example, in that experience, to explore 16 competencies. So that's why you need to use a little bit more complex experiences. Engineers Australia, in the booklet, they also ask you to explore different aspects of your engineering experience. So perhaps if you're just using academic, you use some examples in the beginning of your course, another one from the middle, another one from the end of your course. If you're using work experience, perhaps, again, in the beginning of your career, in the middle, and now, for example. Or different types of examples. If you're using 3 career episodes just talking about the same thing, probably is not a good idea, because you're just repeating yourself. So, but I'm going to talk about in more details in video number 3. All right, I'm conscious of the time. So just reminding you guys, if you want to have a chance to win 15 minutes of free consulting next Tuesday during the Instagram live session that I'm going to do at 8 p.m., you need to go to my Instagram post, the last one, about video number 1. I'm probably going to do stories of that as well. And then the question is, from video number 1 that I'm releasing tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., what pathway do you need to follow if your country is not a signatory of any accord? So the answer is in the video number one tomorrow, so you need to watch the video and then like the post and answer in the comments the right answer. And then on Tuesday during the live session, I'm going to do a draw, a sorteio online, and then you need to be live with me on Tuesday. And then I will say this person here will get 15 minutes if the person is live with me. And then we will share the screen, and you can then expose your situation, your case, and then we can have a discussion live on Tuesday. And why do I like to do live these discussions? Because your question, or the question of the person that gets the 15 minutes of free consulting, that question can be somebody else's question as well. And when I give the answer, I'm not answering one person, I'm answering to many people. And as you know, my objective is to reach as many people as I can, so many people, they benefit with the information. And we've got to take advantage of internet and reach as many people as we can. All right. Oh, good. So there's a question here from Luis in YouTube. If the person was not hired as an engineer, but did engineer's tasks, can this be used as experience? That's a very good question, Luis, Luis Guilherme. And the short answer is maybe yes. Sometimes in Brazil or in other countries, you are hired as, let's say if you are a production engineer. A lot of people, they are hired as production analyst or manufacturing analyst or systems analyst. But in the end, they ended up performing engineering tasks. So the title, obviously it's important, but it's not as critical if your tasks that you did, if they were engineering tasks. If the tasks and activities that you did, they fulfill the ANZ SEO occupation definition, you have very good chances to be approved as professional engineer because of the tasks that you did. And you can explain that in Brazil, analysts, usually they are young engineers or in the beginning of the career that the companies, they hire as analysts, but they actually do engineering work. So as long as you can demonstrate that you actually did engineering job, you should be okay. It's probably not going to be a problem. I've got many students that they were in the same situation, and they ended up being approved as engineers. All right, any more question? I'm conscious of the time. If it is all good, I would like to thank you guys very much for your time and patience. And don't forget, tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., 9:15, I will send an email to you guys with the link of the video number 1 of the workshop. And in this video number 1, I'm going to talk about the opportunity for life transformation. I'm going to talk about the different pathways to validate engineering qualification for overseas engineers. And also I'm going to talk about the 6 steps for the CDR process. Okay, the video again has 25 minutes. There's a lot of information there. There's a little bit of my story as well in there and some testimonies from my students. But it's very worthwhile for you to watch the full 25 minutes. And don't forget, answer the question in Instagram tomorrow after you watch the video, so you can have the chance to win 15 minutes of free consulting. All right? Okay, guys, thank you very much. And I hope to see you in the video tomorrow. And then again on Tuesday, 8 p.m. Brisbane time on Instagram. Just Instagram. Tuesday is going to be just on Instagram. Okay? Thank you, and I'll see you then. Bye-bye.